So the first main difficulty I had was actually with my ankles. I was a very, very active dancer. Almost every single day of the week, I was trying to do all sorts of types of dance, ballet, tap, jazz, just the whole gamut. And I went from this very active dancer to all of a sudden pretty much just struggling to walk. And I tried everything from physical therapy, special bracing, all sorts of different treatments, and it just kept getting worse and worse. And then I got to the point where I was about to be in a wheelchair. It was so severe. So that was the first thing to become so debilitating that we had to do something.
And then you sought out prolotherapy.
Yes.
So that probably was scary as a 13-year-old, right? It probably was really scary.
Yeah, it wasn't easy, but it was to the point where I didn't have any other option, really.
Okay. And then how did you do with prolotherapy to your ankles?
Really well. I was pretty immediately feeling some improvement. They were a little pesky. It took a while to get me. They were so severe that it took a while to really get me all the way there. But they got to a point where eventually I was able to start dancing again. I mean, of course I was able to walk first, but then eventually dance again. Besides my ankles, the neck was the next thing that really was giving me trouble. I was having, I think, dizziness, like a lot of dizziness and lightheadedness. That was a big deal for me. And then I started having weird neurological episodes and symptoms. It was really impacting my life. I was always tired. I was always exhausted. So that's hard as a young person to not have any energy and to have all these other concerning neurological symptoms.
Was prolotherapy helpful for that?
Absolutely, yeah.
So what areas have you needed prolotherapy in?
I've needed prolotherapy, started both ankles, neck, my wrists and my thumbs, elbows, shoulders, my whole entire spine, my low back was a big one. I think I've had my left knee treated, and I might be forgetting. There's other areas that I need treated eventually, but.
What's the hardest part? What's been the hardest part for you getting prolotherapy? And again, if we're honest, prolotherapy isn't fun getting it, right?
No.
Okay, so.
No. So the treatments themselves were hard. The recovery isn't a piece of cake either. It was difficult for me. I had to do all the travel, and it was difficult for me to recover. And then in addition to that, it is actually hard without other people understanding what prolotherapy is. That was hard because it was hard for other people to know how to support me. And a lot of times the easiest thing for them to do was just not support me just because they didn't understand it.
Okay. So what are some things we all can do to help people understand Ehlers-Danlos syndrome and then understand that there is a treatment that can tighten ligaments, and that's prolotherapy?
To understand Ehlers-Danlos syndrome is this might be a silly analogy, but I like to think of when somebody, for instance, breaks their pinky finger, right?
Yeah.
All of a sudden now they realize all of the things that their pinky finger is involved in, all the different tasks.
Yeah, that's true.
And so with EDS, it's like all of these different joints in the body can hurt all at once, and that makes all these tasks you wouldn't even imagine really difficult. And so that's one of the ways, because it's hard to imagine having all over your body these painful things and joints that are moving out of place from the simplest of tasks. So that's one thing to understand EDS, is to think about, I guess, the broken pinkies.
Oh, that's a good analogy, yeah.
And as far as what can help EDS, prolotherapy being the only thing that can tighten the ligaments, because it is stimulating the body to lay down new tissue and really regenerate. I mean, the alternatives to that for me, I went to one particular orthopedic surgeon who offered a series of progressively more aggressive surgeries, because each one would have a pretty high fail rate. And so knowing that, the other way that somebody could manually tighten a ligament, can't do that with all of the ligaments.
Yeah, that's true. There was times during high school, I actually had to have you wear a brace.
Yeah.
So and I often wondered how high school would be for you, like wearing a brace. So how was that? You know, you had to do that because of your neck instability.
Yeah, so that was not my favorite thing ever, and it was hard because that becomes your sort of identity with everybody in the high school. Oh, that's that neck brace girl. And I tried to sort of make it my own. I tried to be very positive about it, so I took my neck brace and I put a bunch of stick-on jewels all over it, and I tried to be really positive about it, but it is really difficult, especially because it's hard for people to understand why somebody who, like, it's not like I was in some traumatic car accident where there was a start time and then I got the brace and then I got better. It was sort of more of an ongoing thing, and so it was hard for people to understand. And it was hard for that thing to identify me as a high schooler. So that was another cool thing that happened with college is I kind of got to reinvent myself because I had gotten better and I didn't need the neck brace anymore.
And then during college, of course, I didn't have to see as much.
Yeah,
during college.
That was awesome. I got to the point where I was strong enough that it was almost like I needed just like maintenance treatments or tune-ups, I called them.
The office got a really cool either text or email from you that you were going to college and they have a certain thing that they do to the freshmen, if you could explain that.
Yeah, that was a really cool moment for me because honestly, before prolotherapy, with my condition, it was very unclear as to if I was even going to be able to go to college. And so then when my college has this like inaugural ceremony where all the freshmen run across this field through these, it's like these columns, they're these massive columns, and everybody as a class runs through together. And I was able to run through the columns with my class.
Yeah, and that was cool for us to receive that. Like, so you had gone from not being able to walk, then you could run through the columns. Then explain what happened in college. Like, because your ankles were doing so well, so a special thing happened in college and you met a special person.
Yeah. So I ended up trying out going to a ballroom dancing studio because now I was, healthy enough that I was able. And it's a very fairy tale-esque story where I met this guy who I thought was cute, and then I loved the dancing. And so I kept going to these ballroom dance classes, and that guy ends up being my fiance, my future husband. So
you obviously are a proponent of prolotherapy because you've experienced it yourself. Hey, say you didn't find prolotherapy, where do you think you'd be now?
See, that's like upsetting to think about just because, and that's why I'm so grateful for prolotherapy because I don't think I'd be walking by any stretch of the mind. I would be in a wheelchair. I wouldn't have been able to go to college. Mm-hmm. At least I wouldn't have been able to go away to college. I wouldn't have met Kyle, and I wouldn't be able to work full time. I think I would just not really. I think EDS, it was my life for a point of time just because of how all-consuming the disorder was for me, and it was just so painful. And like I said, every little motion was, created a problem, and so it was going to be my life. But then I was able to get so much better with prolotherapy that even though it's a part of my life and I still struggle with EDS and I deal with it every day, it's not my whole life, and I can have other pieces,
Like you live in Southwest Florida, and I hear you saying like you guys go kayaking, and then you still did some dance, like you went to some dance classes down here.
Yeah. I still can do other things besides just have EDS and struggle with EDS,
And then what do you want to do for a career?
I want to be a physician assistant, and I want to help other people with, painful conditions.
So in essence, you might eventually become a prolotherapist, right?
That would be cool. That would be really cool.
And you are working now at Caring Medical. Why right now are you working at Caring Medical? Like it's a requirement.
Yeah. So before I go to PA school, I need to get patient care experience where I'm physically taking care of patients. And it's been wonderful. I've learned so much.
We obviously have been grateful to have you here. You've been outstanding. Obviously, you're going to be a great physician assistant because you understand, what joint instability is and what problems can occur from that. At the lower times when you have symptoms related to EDS, is there anything you do or that inspires you, or how do you cope with it?
Yeah, there is. So I always look for joy. And so even in the worst moments, there's always something to be grateful for. There's always something that's joyful, whether it's just looking outside and it's beautiful outside, or listening to a beautiful song, or thinking of the wonderful people in my life that are there for me. There's always joy.